Before anything else, drop a like right now, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Because what's happening behind the scenes in the NBA right now could completely change the course of the season. And if you're a Golden State Warriors fan or you closely follow the league's market, this story deserves your attention from start to finish. The NBA is a league where every word said in public carries weight, sometimes more weight than a game-winning play or a winning streak. And that's exactly what happened after what looked like an ordinary regular season game. The Milwaukee Bucks were under pressure, piling up losses and living with a strange atmosphere around their future. The narrow win over the Atlanta Hawks, 112-110, brought a brief relief on the scoreboard, but opened a much bigger crack off the court. After the game, Giannis Antetokounmpo was asked about something that, at first glance, seemed simple: how confident he felt about finishing the season in Milwaukee. The answer, short and direct, landed like a silent bomb across the league. Giannis guaranteed nothing. He didn't talk about commitment, he didn't talk about the project, he didn't talk about staying. He only said he didn't know, that he was taking it one day at a time. In a league obsessed with signs, subtext, and behind-the-scenes movement, that sentence quickly traveled through NBA hallways. Front offices, executives, agents, and players all heard the same thing: uncertainty. When one of the greatest players on the planet avoids saying he'll be in the same place until the end of the season, it's never irrelevant. The impact of that statement was immediate, especially in markets that were already watching for any opening to change. And no team was watching more closely than the Golden State Warriors. The California franchise, which had been trying to reinvent itself amid the gradual end of a dominant era, had been hit by a brutal blow just days earlier. Jimmy Butler, a central piece of the current competitive plan, suffered an anterior cruciate ligament tear, a serious, major injury that abruptly ended his season. Up to that moment, Golden State was living through a rare period of stability. Butler had brought defensive balance, physical presence on the wing, and a competitive mindset that had been missing in decisive moments. The team was riding a positive stretch, finding rhythm and identity. All of that collapsed in a matter of minutes. The heavy loss to the Toronto Raptors wasn't just another bad result. It was the portrait of a team that lost its axis halfway through the journey. Without Butler, the Warriors were forced to face an uncomfortable question: keep pushing in a season that suddenly looked lost, or prepare for something much bigger. And that's where the name Giannis Antetokounmpo enters the equation almost inevitably. Meanwhile, in Milwaukee, the picture wasn't encouraging either. The Bucks were stacking up more losses than expected, fighting to stay relevant in the Eastern Conference, and watching direct rivals pull away. With a negative record and clear fit issues, the sense of wear grew with every game. Not only physical wear, but emotional and structural. Around the league, the perception began to solidify. According to behind-the-scenes reports, many executives already see the relationship between Giannis and the Bucks as something moving toward an end. It's not a declared breakup, but a quiet erosion. The kind of situation where nobody announces anything, but everyone prepares for what feels inevitable. Teams started positioning themselves, not because Milwaukee officially put Giannis on the market, but because the NBA works like that. The ones who wait for the public announcement usually arrive late. Franchises that truly want a superstar move first, adjust assets, analyze contracts, evaluate draft picks, and run scenario simulations. So far, the Bucks keep saying they aren't taking offers for their main player. Officially, there are no open negotiations. But behind the scenes, there are calls, exploratory conversations, and a lot of anticipation. It's a fast-paced chess match where every move has to be calculated months in advance. On Golden State's side, the situation is delicate, but oddly full of possibilities. Jimmy Butler's injury completely changes the franchise's internal logic. A 36-year-old player on a heavy contract, now coming off one of the toughest injuries in basketball, stops being only a basketball piece and also becomes a strategic financial asset. Before the injury, Butler was still producing at a high level. His January numbers showed efficiency, impact, and the ability to decide games even with controlled minutes. But NBA history shows that ACL tears in older players are rarely simple. Recovery time, loss of explosiveness, and the risk of new injuries automatically enter the calculation for any executive. That doesn't mean Golden State wants to dump Butler by choice. Publicly, the front office made it clear they still view him as important for the near future, especially with next season in mind. But the market doesn't run on official statements alone. It runs on opportunity, and Giannis Antetokounmpo is an opportunity on another level. If Milwaukee ever decides to shift its stance, everything changes instantly. The Warriors have something extremely valuable in this type of negotiation: flexibility and assets. Beyond Butler's contract, which would help balance salaries in a potential trade, Golden State controls multiple future first-round picks. Few franchises can build a package that strong if a true superstar becomes available. And here's a crucial point. Any future draft pick carries huge risk, especially for a franchise that built its identity around Stephen Curry. When those picks start getting used, Curry likely won't be on the floor at the same level anymore, or might not even be wearing the team's jersey. That's why the front office has been clear about another thing. If they're going to give up that future, it has to be for someone who represents not only the present, but also the continuity of the project. Giannis fits that profile perfectly. In his prime, dominant on both ends of the floor, capable of instantly raising any team's competitive ceiling. Alongside Stephen Curry and Draymond Green, he would put the Warriors back into the title conversation immediately. More than that, he would be the bridge between the current era and what comes next. Meanwhile, the phrase said after the game against Atlanta keeps echoing, "I don't know." Two simple words, but carrying enormous weight when spoken by a player of that caliber. In the NBA, perception often arrives before facts, and once perception starts spreading, the outcome usually becomes a matter of time. This combination of factors, the silent crisis in Milwaukee, the devastating injury in San Francisco, the contracts, the draft picks, and the competitive window that still exists, creates a scenario few imagined weeks ago. A season that seemed to be following a predictable script is now wide open for a massive twist. And all of it started not with a trade request, not with an official statement, but with a vague answer, said almost without emotion, right after a typical regular season game. From that moment on, everything starts to fit together like puzzle pieces nobody wanted to assemble publicly, but that, behind the scenes, are already on the table. Because when a player the size of Giannis Antetokounmpo shows any sign of doubt about his future, the entire league reacts. It doesn't matter how many times the official narrative tries to calm things down. The NBA runs on signals, and this was a clear signal. In Milwaukee, the situation goes far beyond the standings. The problem isn't just being outside the direct playoff spots or fighting for lower positions in the East. The real point of tension is the feeling of stagnation. The team has already tried adjustments, changed pieces, and bet on different combinations around Giannis. And still the performance doesn't match the level of expectation for a franchise that has one of the most dominant players in recent history. For an athlete like Giannis, who built his career on constant improvement and extreme competitiveness, staying in a situation where the ceiling looks limited creates a silent wear. It's not something solved by motivational speeches or small roster tweaks. It's structural. And once that kind of wear sets in, it rarely returns to the starting point. At the same time, the Golden State Warriors are living a different crisis, but just as deep. It's not a crisis of identity because that identity has been clear for years. It's a crisis of time. Stephen Curry's time, Draymond Green's time, the time of a generation that redefined modern basketball. Every season becomes an opportunity that cannot be wasted. Jimmy Butler's arrival was designed exactly for that context. Someone to bring intensity, leadership, and immediate competitive weight. Someone capable of sharing responsibility in crunch time and easing the pressure on Curry. For a few games, it worked. The team gained solidity, gained defensive presence, and returned to competing at a high level. The injury, however, destroyed that plan in brutal fashion. When a 36-year-old tears his ACL, the conversation changes automatically. It's not about desire. It's physical reality. Recovery is possible, but returning to the same level is always uncertain. For a team that can't afford to wait, that matters. That's where the idea of a Giannis trade stops being just a theoretical exercise and starts making sense within the league's cold logic. Butler's contract, which in another context could be seen as a problem, becomes a tool. Big salaries are necessary to make trades of this size work, and Golden State knows it. On top of that, the draft picks become the real difference maker. Few franchises can offer multiple future picks without completely destroying their ability to rebuild. The Warriors, paradoxically, can do it precisely because they know the post-Curry future has to be planned now, not later. Giannis represents that perfect transition. He isn't just a short-term add-on, he's a new pillar. Someone capable of keeping the franchise relevant even when the current era ends. Someone who attracts other players, sustains competitiveness, and protects the team's sports and business value. For the Bucks, the equation is also complex. Keeping Giannis in an environment where the team struggles to remain competitive can create even more wear. On the other hand, trading him would mean admitting the end of a historic cycle. Neither decision is simple, but the NBA repeatedly shows that cycles end, whether the people involved like it or not. What strengthens this possibility even more is the league's behavior as a whole. Rival teams don't wait for official announcements to act. They get ahead. They analyze scenarios, simulate offers, evaluate risks. Even if Milwaukee still isn't listening to offers, the mere fact that other teams are preparing indicates the general perception that something could happen. And when perception spreads, it creates pressure. Internal pressure, external pressure, pressure from fans, the media, and even the players themselves. Nobody wants to be caught off guard in a market where information is gold. For the Golden State fan, this story takes on an almost unbelievable shape. A season that seemed headed toward a modest fight after Butler's injury now turns into a possible doorway to something much bigger. It's not a promise, it's not a guarantee, but it's a chance. And in the NBA, chances this big don't show up often. Everything connects when you look at the timing. Giannis's doubt emerges exactly when the Bucks face real struggles. Butler's injury happens exactly when the Warriors needed stability. Golden State's assets are available exactly when a superstar could eventually hit the market. It's not a script, it's convergence. For now, nothing is decided. The Bucks keep saying nothing has changed. The Warriors keep the cautious tone. But anyone who follows the league knows the biggest trades are rarely announced out of nowhere. They're built slowly, in silence, while the public debates only the on-court results. Deep down, that short answer from Giannis remains the central element of everything. It wasn't an aggressive statement. It wasn't an explicit request. It was simply an admission of uncertainty. And, ironically, sometimes that is more powerful than any explosive declaration. For a league fueled by narratives, cycles, and transitions, moments like this often mark the beginning of major change. Change that, when it finally happens, makes everyone look back and realize the signs were always there. If you want to keep following this story and understand every possible development, drop a like right now, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the bell, because this saga is far from over, and any detail can change everything from 1 hour to the next. The NBA landscape is constantly evolving, and one of the moves that has generated a lot of speculation is the potential arrival of Sotto to the Golden State Warriors for the 2025 season. This rumor has been gaining momentum recently, with reports indicating that the team is in discreet negotiations to secure the signing of the Filipino center, who has been making a name for himself in international leagues. If this transaction goes through, it would not only change the game on the court, but also have a massive impact off the court, especially within the Filipino community, which already feels represented by Sotto in many parts of the world. Standing at 2.18 meters tall, Sotto stands out as an imposing presence on the court, but his influence goes beyond his height. He is a complete athlete, whose skills make him one of the most exciting prospects in the NBA. His combination of height, wingspan, and technical abilities is rare. As a defender, Sotto is an effective shot blocker, using his excellent reaction time and long wingspan to protect the rim. But it's not just his defense that catches attention. His offensive ability, especially his mid-range shooting, sets him apart from many other centers in the league. His versatility on offense makes him a key asset for teams that prioritize modern basketball, which demands diverse skills from its players. Kai Sotto's development didn't happen overnight. Born in the Philippines, a country where basketball is almost a religion, he quickly drew attention due to his natural talent and, most importantly, his dedication. His journey as a player began early, but to reach an international level, he had to venture outside his homeland. This led him to play in the National Basketball League, NBL, in Australia, where he faced a much higher level of competition. His ability to stand out in such a competitive setting solidified him as a cornerstone player for his teams, both offensively and defensively. Kai not only proved his worth but also became an icon of Filipino basketball, showcasing the potential of the nation on the global stage. Kai Sotto's journey continued when he moved to the B-League in Japan. There, he had the chance to further develop, facing top-tier opponents while taking the name of the Philippines to new heights. His adaptation to international basketball was remarkable, and his skills as a defender and his ability to represent Filipino culture made him one of the most admired players in the league. Now, with the possibility of joining the NBA, Sotto feels ready to take on the greatest challenge of his career so far, and the team that might help him in this process is the Golden State Warriors, a franchise known for its fast and dynamic style of play. But beyond being an innovative team, the Warriors also have a clear need in their roster: the lack of a dominant presence in the paint. This has been a deficiency that, while the team has overcome it in many seasons with its fast-paced play and three-point shooting, remains an area that could be strengthened. And this is exactly where Kai Sotto fits in. If signed, Kai's impact on the Warriors would be immediate. His ability to grab rebounds, both defensively and offensively, would provide a significant advantage to the team, especially during fast breaks, which are a hallmark of the Warriors' playing style. Additionally, his ability to protect the rim would be a valuable addition to the team's defense. In moments when the team needs a strong presence in the paint, Sotto could be the player capable of making a difference. The Warriors' offense would also benefit from his presence. His ability to shoot mid-range would open up more space for perimeter players, allowing the Golden State team to further explore its fast-paced plays and three-point shooting. Sotto's offensive flexibility is something the Warriors need to continue innovating and remain one of the top forces in the NBA. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any updates. Hit the bell to get the latest news firsthand. Thank you for watching and see you next time.